Okay, this talk is called Introduction to Relativity Nonsense. There are many videos now on the internet teaching Einstein's relativity. All of them teach various types of nonsense. So I'm going to look at one of these in detail and point out as many of its flaws as possible. Example I'm taking is a nearly 2-hour lecture, so commenting on all that makes this a long video, which I'll have to split up. It's just typical of how relativity is introduced to students. Video is Introduction to Relativity, so hence why I'm calling it Introduction to Relativity Nonsense. And it's by SBCC Physics. So that link there, and we have this link here telling you about Santa Barbara College Physics. So if I go to it now, yeah, so if we go down a bit, I can see what it says. Dr. Mike Young introduces special relativity. I'll show more. You don't get to see much more. So here he is. He's very enthusiastic about teaching about relativity, and of course a lot of it I'm not going to agree with. So let's go with it. Let me make it large. Here he goes.
Well, it is past time to get started, so let's get us started and make a quick comment that I think is the obvious. We are now switching gears, going to our last segment, and I think one of the more interesting subjects or topics, although also at the end of our whole book here and at the end of the sequence, this idea of the modern physics is, like I said, is just like all of ours, and I got to keep telling myself, oh, I wish we had more time, but we don't, just like we didn't have.
So this is a 2-hour lecture, and he's saying he hasn't got time really to go into all of it. So there you go, and he's taught a lot of other physics just before he gets to this. And so we now get into Einstein's relativity as he introduces it to his physics students. Well, I presume they're physics students, maybe there's some other thing. Okay.
All that much time to do the optics in all its glorious detail, or the thermodynamics in all its glorious detail, or our mechanical ways. But as we get to this last topic of the semester, we'll spend as much time as we possibly could and show you some interesting things. And if nothing else, I'll leave you with hopefully a flavoring, and hopefully even a positive flavoring, of modern physics and modern science, even though, as you'll see, in terms of engineering, it's kind of, for lack of better words, not mainstream engineering, since one of the first things we'll talk about is only relevant as we get close to the speed of light.
So his comment about engineering, if he has got engineering students, I'm not really sure whether he's talking to engineering students or physics students, but if he's talking to engineering students, then most engineers won't really have a need for Einstein's relativity. It's supposed to be that Einstein's relativity only comes into effect with things like high speed and so forth. So in most down-to-earth engineering situations, Einstein's relativity is supposed to be not having an effect. So Einstein's relativity being messed up doesn't really affect engineering too much.
And other than a few minor cases, or just a few cases, that's where modern technology is, we don't really go close to the speed of light, or we don't need times accurate to a billionth of a second. But there are some important exceptions to that, and GPS systems are a good example of that. But the science part now...
So he's saying GPS, and he thinks Einstein's relativity is used in that, and that's, I think, a false claim. So if we go here, there we go. This, I'll just do a bit of a clip of this one. If you can read it, it's a GPS expert, Ron Hatch, disagrees with what these people who believe in Einstein's relativity say. It says, perhaps you've already heard that GPS, by the very fact that it works, confirms Einstein's relativity. Also that black holes must be real. But these are little more than popular fictions, according to the distinguished GPS expert Ron Hatch. So, no, Einstein's relativity is not really used in GPS, according to Ron Hatch. I do a quick little look at him, so you get an idea what it's about.
Thank you for inviting me. This is my first Electric Universe one. And however, about 40 years ago, I worked a little bit with Don Patton, and he brought Velikovsky's stuff to my attention at that time. And I helped him a little bit with some orbits way back then. First off, I think I'd better apologize that I'm going to talk more about gravity than electric universe. But I think you can see a few connections as we go along. I didn't know how to organize this. Clearly, I'm going to present it in a way that it wasn't derived. And what I'm trying to do here is simply to show some agreement with facts and ask questions. What's theory say?
There you get some idea what that's about.